Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, Vince. How are you?
Good. It's been a while since the last show before Christmas, but a lot's been
Yes.
going on. So let's get down to it. What I wanted to bring up was the news. The hottest 100 is the worst result in 3 decades, and probably goes
The
back
worst result.
the worst result. So there was, you would look. I don't get right into is that the top 40 or the top 20, but it really doesn't matter. It's let's call it the hottest 100,
Yeah.
and it's the worst result for Australian artists within that result of streams and sales and whatever. Anyway, it probably goes back to a lot of what we'd spoken about last year, in that I think I said in one episode that I'm not a socialist. I'm not a super left winger. I'm a middle of the road guy, but I see no reason why we should not enforce radio. I know radio doesn't count for much anymore, but other platforms in here having to, have a certain amount of Australian content. Now, if we can't control online, well, then we can control terrestrial, and that being radio, TV, and whatever, and saying a certain percentage has to be Australian music. End of story. Our music is as good as anybody else's. I've kind of had that opinion for a long, long time. If I go back to, I suppose, my latter teens and into my 20s, I could never understand, and I've discussed this before for sure on the show, is that I could never understand why artists had to go overseas. And they go, oh, we've sent them to the record plant in New York, or, in LA or New York or wherever.
Yes. We discussed this, didn't we?
Yeah, and they had to go over there, and then they got to live there for a little while, so it cost them a fortune, for a month, and they get the writing vibe because they're in America, and then they've got
Inspiration.
and if you go back and do a lot of reading on those studios over there, a lot of them were either owned or in cahoots with the producers. So you'd pick a producer, he'd say, well, we've got to go to the record plant. And they would either hire their gear to that studio, or they owned a lot of the gear in the studio, and then they used to charge you accordingly for outboard gear. And the cost would go up. There was these scams going on. But I can bring this back to those kind of scams too, and getting back to, well, therefore, why couldn't you record in Australia? We had a lot of forget the 60s and early 70s, but go to late 70s onwards, we had studios which is as good as anybody else's. You go back to the complete scamming of the record companies into the production companies, into the recording studios. So we had scamming going on everywhere. Anyway, and that exists to today. And if I bring up something I kind of really had a chuckle about, was that it was announced a couple of weeks ago that Universal has purchased CD Baby and Fuga. So we know what CD Baby is. It's a form of getting onto the digital service provider platforms via just pay a fee and they'll get you across there. Once again, you have no idea what percentage you're taking for administration before they get back to you with a revenue source. But then you have Fuga, who were out there trying to be a distributor and the like, and they were looking very shaky, hadn't been around for that long, and Universal has purchased them, and Universal has said that we're here to support the independent artists. We're getting right into the nuts and bolts of supporting the independent artist. Do you believe any of that? That's monopolisation, I would have thought.
Well, it is, but the courts around the country and, around the world are trying to battle that at the moment. I've seen so many...
We're trying to battle, we're trying to battle monopolisation across all forms. Now, whether that be four banks in Australia who talk and monopolise us and control the financial system here, to whether it be Coles and Woolworths who are giving us false discounts on food, whether it be to music. So the government talks the talk but doesn't walk that talk and can go down that path and actually implement and do anything. I have no confidence in a Labor government or a Liberal government, and you can forget the independents because they don't have any power. So if I'm talking about Australia, this is in Australia, so not around the world, I have no confidence in any of the governments to ever do anything. And I think it's always in their interest to not rock the boat too much. And who suffers for all of that? And it's the poor and downtrodden, and they will always suffer. Never gets any better. Now you go to the music business, and let's get into young bands trying to get up. And now CD Baby's gone. So I think there's DistroKid is the other one. Now I think they're still, I should research it, I think they're still independent, but they know better because you don't know what you're getting anyway. And as I say, I always push Laneway Red as we get going because it will be very transparent, although we are not a distributor on the sense of getting you into the DSPs, we're trying to become our own platform. And I spoke about this with someone the other day, and I said how it came about was that we do get venues occasionally that want Laneway to put on shows. And we did a whole heap of shows way back in the COVID times, as you know.
Yes.
And when we did shows again, about 2 years ago, we did a whole host of shows again at another place called POM, which doesn't even exist anymore. And they're very successful shows because we muster all the Laneway music followers and whatever and, get what we get there. And so we do get asked. Well, we've been asked again and we've stopped. And I've stopped it because the pressure it puts on me personally, because I seem to get lumbered with it all the time, in trying to make sure the show is a success. It's too stressful because of everything else that's going on with what we do. And so we've been asked again, would we like to do it at now a more prestigious venue and to run to start with, once a month. And I'm very reluctant. But, they're kind of getting me to go down there and review the site and have a look and, do a survey on it, a site survey, and I'm kind of going, look, do I want to? But it gets back to, trying to create something for the artist, and be real about it. And I get a lot of artists who go, can you get us some gigs? And I go, we're not promoters. We're a label, like the Laneway Music, Laneway Red, different. But I've now thought, well, maybe that's something we do with Laneway Red and make a Laneway Red Presents, and then we put on a lot of younger acts and older acts, and get them in there. But it's about building your own framework. And if I go back to Universal, they just bought those two sites. What are they building? Well, they're simply pulling players out of the marketplace and monopolising.
Yeah, it's a monopoly, isn't it?
And so that I don't think they'd be supporting independent acts at all. Occasionally they might see someone that explodes independently, and therefore they offer them a deal. But what kind of deal are they offering? And the deal, and they've gotten smart again, because there was quite a few years in between analog and digital, and then digital to more, let's call it more sophisticated digital, where the major labels had lost themselves. They weren't quite sure how to sign people and what way to go about it to lock them up so they make the most money and not the artist. And I think what they've worked out now is, we've got to get rid of these smaller players, and we control it and we make out as if we're happy. Occasionally we might find someone that explodes in there independently and we'll offer them a deal. What's that deal like? It'll be a terrible deal because they've locked up their deals. Now, I have heard this from a source that they're now locking you up for 5 years, or if they can, they'll push you back to the 7. Now, 5 and 7 years were the deals that were being done in the early to mid 80s. The 70s were even kind of different again in that, they were perpetuity, but the percentage was so much lower. The percentage came up to like 12 or 18% of wholesale in the 80s, but they'd lock you in for 5 albums or they'd try you for 7. It's come back to that, and that's what they're doing now, or they're not prepared to support you. That is a lifetime. I mean, your career's over, don't you think, Rob, if you would lock up for that amount of time?
In 5 years.
Well, if I locked you up for a 5-year deal and I don't like you in 2 years, I can either lock you up or I can release you, but otherwise I keep you to 5 and 7, and there'll be perpetuity in there now. There's no way they'd give you anything else because they know catalog's king, always has been, but they've just realised again they've got to get perpetuity in there for the universe. So if I lock you up, whereas about 5-8 years ago, you could kind of get away with a 2-year deal. That's no longer the case. So, buying those sites, as we say, is just monopolisation, taking players out of the marketplace. Sony are doing the same, and they're just making more money than ever. Although they are crying poor, they're saying they're not making much money. Now, then we go to
What's the end game though? Really, because
the end game.
It's just tragedy after tragedy for the musician.
What's the end game? The end game is the same as it's been since the 70s. The corporations, again, I'm not a left winger. The corporations are completely dominating the music industry and living off musicians. And, if you go into these major labels and you not only have a look at their offices, but you see how they conduct themselves in travel and accommodation and conferences and all that stuff, that all has to be paid for.
Well, it does.
The musician has to pay for it, right, out of their share, and a share keeps those. See, I'm against executives making $5 or $10 million a year. I think if I find a good executive and you're a public company turning over, huge amounts of money, well, why wouldn't we offer you a maximum of, say, $1 to $2 million a year, and then you might get some stock, whatever. But when they're on 10 million plus huge bonuses, and I think to myself, how much money is enough money? Now, the quandary there is they say, well, if we don't offer them the big bucks, they will be poached by someone else, and therefore we won't get that talent. Well, I think I've said in the past, well, if they had that much talent, well, then they would be running their own corporation themselves. Why would they need to be running a public company, for example? Anyway, that's, they're only my opinions, and as I say,
someone's got to pay for it. I mean, it's the same all the way across the board. Doesn't matter how much someone's getting paid, there has got to be a revenue stream to be able to support that. And at the end of the day, if it comes down to ripping off a musician to support, executives within a company, that's kind of how the system is, and that's the reality of it.
Well,
I'm not sure how you're going to change that.
Well, I'd like to bring it. I don't ever talk politics. I'll talk politics now, because I hate them all, and the journalists who interview them, who I hate them all too.
Hate positively
because they never ask a hard question. So if we have a politician talking, and it doesn't matter what side of politics, talking about, helping the downtrodden, and I'll say to you that, well, hold on, well, do you have to worry you're a career politician? And most of them are, right? Most of them are career politicians. So you're not only on a great salary, but you're on a fantastic pension plan, which you all voted on and which we pay for. And so
the gravy train.
Yeah. So life is good. They can't ever imagine what it would be like for the lower socio-economic, right? No idea. No idea how hard it would be for medical for those people, because their life after 2 terms in Parliament, 2 terms, is set for life. But no, the journos never ask those hard, well, how would you know how tough it would be out there? You've never run a business, you're a career politician, so that's all you've ever done. Your qualifications might be in theology and all that kind of stuff. Seems to be a lot of lawyers in there, which really amazes me.
Yeah, economists as well.
Yeah,
right?
Well, the treasurer's never an economist. Have you noticed that?
Well, that's
the treasurers are never economists. Well, the current treasurer, he did political science. He did his PhD on it was a previous Labor, politician. That was his thesis. Anyway, so I look at all these things and they don't have a grip on reality, and then you go to corporations and you just have a look at what's going on in that upper echelon, and there is no doubt about it. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the middle income are being squeezed out. And
what did Peter Garrett say? The rich get richer, poor get the picture, the bond will never hit you when you're down so low.
Oh, it's a good song in that.
It is good.
So I just think, again, I'm not left wing, so I don't propose a redistribution of wealth in any shape or form, because you work hard for what you do yourself. But there's got to be government responsibility, which has gone out the window in the last 20 years, 30 years. Government
I don't think it's just 20 years. It's the same model that's been there for 200 years.
No. What I'll say, though, I'll qualify that. I say in the last 20 or 30 in that we used to own the State Electricity Commission, all right? It was owned by the government, therefore the people. We used to supply electricity to the people.
Yes,
and it was controlled, and we controlled it. And, we had to privatise it. Water rights have been a huge issue for farmers coming up and down the East Coast. There is a lot of examples where the government should still control it because it's a necessity of the population to have these goods and services. Say, medical, for example, should be, to me, and they go, well, we can't afford it. Well, we might not afford it, but we could if we didn't give out as many, aid, or whether we squander money on government proposals to say we're going to increase productivity in the future, which never happens, and it's billions of dollars. Imagine how many hospitals we could create. And so I'm talking simplistically, but it's about keeping the middle class happy and the lower class are protected in a sense. Now, that doesn't mean you don't work. You've got to work. Now, you get back to music, and, I've been in the last 2 months, and we haven't kind of spoken for about 2 months, a lot of discussions with artists, and I have to ram it home constantly, Rob, about the persistence and the consistency of your delivery of not only your music, but your marketing and promo. And if you follow the formulas, which we have discussed on many occasions in here, you will get a level of success. It will happen. You will get it. And I have certain acts that I'm dealing with where it's coming. I have other acts where it's not coming. And I can only reiterate it again. Persistence and consistency, and the band has to buy in. I went out to see a band last night, and the band have all bought in, and they're getting the results that they were, looking for. But I often say the band has to buy in. As we well know, Rob, one individual can't run the whole show. I had someone else in the office here only a couple of days ago, and going through that, he goes, I'm doing all the work, I said, that can't last. That can't last. You can't be the writer, the manager, the organiser and everything. I said, unless the band buys in, I said, you just put music out. And there's nothing wrong with just putting music out. Then don't ask me, well, why haven't we got the streams? So, the formulas do work, but a lot of artists do fantasize and fool themselves and think, oh, well, I've put it out, it's a good song. Well, that's actually got nothing to do with it. It's that good song is subjective.
They're buying the dream. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. So one thing that's come out too is Spotify have said they've paid out $10 billion, right?
That's a lot of money.
Well, I thought, well, so what? Well, what's that got to do with the price of fish? I mean, do I care whether they're paid out $10 billion? All I know is that 5% of the artists on there make a great living and the other 95% are there to support the 5%. It's the most unjust system in there that I've ever seen before. It's the most unjust system of delivery for the artist.
But isn't that just a direct reflection of what you just said about our wonderful politicians and, the so-called haves and have-mores?
They've been corrupted by the money, to me, Spotify. It's so much money involved.
It is, yeah, but it's just the same systemic sickness, really, across music, across multiple platforms.
Yeah.
But I think that technologically, and the technology that we've got today, on one hand, is fantastic, but also it's got a lot to answer for as well.
Well, interesting you say that. Now, there's another discussion I had, and a lot of discussions in the last 8 weeks. And another discussion on where I thought AI was going and ChatGPT and whatever. And I said, look, my opinion was that, if we go back 30 years, 40 years, we knew we marketed and promoted one way there. We then got to another situation in the transition from analog to digital. We then got to another transition from digital to social platforms within digital.
Yeah.
All right. And now I think young artists are just as at the folly also that we are transitioning to AI and ChatGPT, and as we know, DeepSeek out of China, and everybody's panicking. And what I'm observing is that it's not just the older artists who go, I don't do social media, and you have a chuckle and go, well, you're just putting out music, right? So, that's that. But what you're getting is the younger acts now are even in a quandary in that what's happening and how they're to promote themselves with the existence now of ChatGPT, AI, DeepSeek and all these things, because it's opening it up a lot wider. So what I mean by that is that up until about a year ago, we knew that the young generation were just so good at their social media, they could blow up their product, music, in a very good, concise way because they knew how to social media out to all their friends and their friends out to their friends and their friends out to their friends. The older age bracket, very rare. They don't even know what they're doing. And so, but what's happened, it's moved.
Well, I do.
Well, it's, I know. And it's moved though. Now it's moved to this new system coming where a lot more people, whether it be middle-aged or even the heritage market, can start to get their promo written. So they put in, I want to, in ChatGPT, I would like to write a promo on my new release of my heavy rock song, right? And it writes out your press release, and it can even write out a plan for you. And, and so then you've got AI, which is assisting what I've had with a lot of older musicians who go, yeah, we're using it. I put in an idea. It's my original riff, for example, and then it embellishes on that, and then I finish off the song. And so, and I've had that happening. So when
Have they read the small print
What's that?
with AI music creation programs? If you read the small print, anything that you put in there, you cannot use for commercial purposes.
Oh, well, no, I know that people are definitely using it.
Well,
as I said,
that's where I think, I don't know how good all their bots are, but if they can trace, and this is a bigger worry, if they can trace that you've put anything of your work into their system, they own the copyright and you cannot release it for commercial purposes.
I don't doubt that.
Where do they draw in the line between where the original idea came from in the first place? It goes back to copyright. It goes back to any of those bands that have been sued for ripping off another band. It's like, but now the argument isn't between human and human. The argument's going to be between machine and machine against humans. I really think that's a dangerous precedent that's being set with AI. I mean, everyone's using it, and it's just taking over our lives whether we want it to or not. But that's a very, very interesting thing. Just be careful. If you're using AI, read the small print of the program that you're using, because ones that I've read, anything that you put in there, they own the copyright of, and you cannot.
My understanding from people coming to me that have mentioned this is that they come up with an idea, they then put it into AI, which embellishes on that idea. They then go away and they record, and they may finish it off and again embellish again, and they record it. So they're not actually using the as opposed to go into AI and write me a song that comes back, and a lot of people try and put that out. All right. Now,
well, that's what's replacing most of the artists, if you believe.
I don't doubt it, mate. I'm with you on it. Absolutely.
That's what Spotify's doing.
We've spoken about it, and I believe it 100%. But
do you notice those weird songs that come up and go, I've never heard of this band. This sounds like a million other bands. And so where does this come from? And how has Spotify put it in my playlist?
Oh, well, we know people have, like Beato has researched that, didn't he, where he looked for an artist and he delved down further and further. The artist didn't actually exist. Well, he couldn't find anything, or they had 2 streams on YouTube and 10 million on Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, Ted Goyer's another one that's researched it with Beato. And they're right into it.
But we know that's there, Rob. It's there.
It is. Yeah.
You know, it's not going to change. If anything, it'll get more prolific. Yeah, there's a scary part to it, no doubt about it. And at my age, I'm not scared about it because I won't be around when it, essentially could potentially completely take over. But I'm here.
2112.
I'm here to do what I'm doing. And I'm working with artists. And if they use part of that to help them, I don't have a problem with that at all, if it helps them. But if to write a song is a different thing altogether. That's just, I just have a chuckle about that. But because it's just ridiculous. But it's happening, and we know it's happening, and nobody's going to stop it. It is not going to stop. And I haven't seen, Rob, we may see, I don't know, the uproar about things happening around the world, and embargoes and, and everything that's going on. But nobody seems to be worrying about what this can do to music. Nobody seems to be bloody concerned. There's a bit of chatter about it, but no effective, well, we could do this to stop this. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I bring it back to our state. I've been doing my research as I do. In 22-23, 490 million in GSP was contributed by the music industry in South Australia.
490 million?
490 million.
It's fantastic.
5,000 jobs were supported across the South Australian economy in 22-23 by the music industry, and 2.5 GSP multiplier. So for every dollar contributed directly by the music industry, an additional $1.50 is contributed to GSP from flow-on effects. Now, that's just South Australia we're talking about, and that study is now a year or so old. But that's the first study they've done on that in 8 years. It's 2016 or 2017, I think, was the last time they did that sort of something. But that's a lot of money that the music industry brings in just to this state. Now, I know every state would have that sort of analytics, but, I researched who did it because I was looking at, who wrote this report, and it was done by an accounting firm, so I suppose that's who collects data, doesn't it? But
no, because they would have been contracted by someone. Now, whether they're contracted by the government for that specific survey, that would be it. But no, accounting firms don't. Paul Janowskis from Cattle Trucks in the statistics department, I think for the federal government, right? He works here in Melbourne, and he does a lot of this stuff. And mate, they've just got so many people, collecting stats and redoing the stats and increasing the stats. And so, no, that would be a specific. Accounting firms, no, don't. But it just, I suppose it lends a form of legitimacy to it. But being an accountant myself, is an accounting firm qualified in doing these kind of stats? I don't know whether they would be. I wouldn't have thought so, but
that's who writes it.
Well, I don't kind of get excited that they're any more legitimate than anybody else. They could be corrupted, just like Price Waterhouse was in their tax issues that they've had in the last 2 years, where they were basically thwarting the Australian Taxation Office, working for them and working for their private clients at the same time.
Yeah, just they're interesting to do, but that they're going to be skewed in the favour of the businesses that have conducted.
It could be. I'm not particularly saying that, but there's all these kind of stats, aren't they, that are out there, but. Let's bring it back home, and Spotify reckon they paid $10 billion out. Really?
Yeah,
$10 billion?
That's bigger, isn't it? Spotify's a lot bigger than in that market. What is the general flow on or percentage of Australian artists? As you said, in the top 100, the representation of Australian artists is minimal.
Well,
I saw a thing the other day about this American chap was talking about Jet and Are You Going to Be My Girl? I'm rehearsing that because I'm playing it in the Grouse on the weekend. It's a great song, a great band, Jet. And they're going, who knew these guys were Australian?
Are you serious? Come on.
Yeah. That's what I mean. That we're so far down the food chain in the large thing, bring it back to Spotify again. Where do we exist in that realm? And does it make any difference? Really?
I think I probably would have said this in the very beginning when we started the podcast. We say to our artists, you got to be on Spotify. A lot of them go, I don't want to be on Spotify. I go, you got to be on Spotify. Use Spotify as your marketing tool.
Yeah.
Right? Use it as your marketing tool. And it can work for you in that respect. When you blow up, very rare that you would ever blow up on there without big bucks. And we're just back to the system that we had 20 years ago, and that's the majors controlling it. Well, Spotify's a major too, controlling it. It all goes on. It still goes back to be creative, write music, get your socials happening. At some point you can get to gigs. I don't want to get too excited about gigs. You got to be at the right point to get to gigs and put them on. But the process is still be creative. You still got to write a song, don't you? And it's got to be a good song.
And I think that's important to look after yourself, to have that creative inspiration as well, because as worn out as you can get with dealing with all the technology, you still got to sit down with your guitar or your keyboard or whatever you write with and write some lyrics and make a song.
I think so. In that you can get lost with all the technology and everything that's happening. How important does say you're a guitarist? how important does your guitar then become? Is it that important because it's part and parcel of the process, but how much time? But it should be 95% of the time spent on that guitar.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to, and I say this to my students and all the new customers we coming in buying drum kits and instruments. It's the intrinsic motivation. Why do you want to do it? You want to pick it up because it makes you feel good.
Mm.
You know, and you want to do it because it makes you feel good. And if you've got something to say, you can say whatever you want to say. And it's you. You know, don't lose that individuality.
Mm.
Everyone's different and everyone's got a different story. And, you know, I think music essentially, you know, for thousands of years has been used to tell stories. We're still telling them. We're still reflecting what environment we all live in. So, you know, don't stop that process. Just pick your guitar up or go. I was reading Neil Peart. I'll put his book up here, Ghost Rider. It's amazing.
I thought you were reading that a year ago when we spoke.
Rereading. I go back. I mean, I'm reading 5 books at the moment.
All right.
The other one, Alex Van Halen's Brothers. It's a great read too. Very different to Neil, but the thing with Neil Peart that I'm talking about is that he's, after 2 years of not playing, not touring, not doing anything because of the tragedy that he went through, he went back to playing the drums.
Mm.
He booked a studio, didn't tell anyone. He got his management agency just to keep it quiet. He booked out the studio in Toronto, I think it is, where they recorded Moving Pictures and blah, 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 Hemispheres, all those wonderful albums. And he went and set up his Gretsch drum kit and played, and he said, I'm telling stories. I can feel my emotions coming out through what I'm doing with the kit. And he's very articulate in what he's saying about it. I mean, even for drummers, just because drummers don't play a melodic instrument, you know, you get out there and just play what you feel and get it out. And, you know, document your ideas, remember it, and, you know, take that to your jam room with your band and try and throw that in when you can. You know, it's really important for us not to give up playing our instrument and not worrying about the rest of it.
Well, what will be interesting is what you mentioned last year, that, you know, could we be moving towards electronic drums away from, you know, our traditional drum kits? And, you know, is that something that's happening?
Well, it is, because the amount of electronic drum kits we sell far outweighs acoustic drum kits. I'll point to my Roland V Drums T-shirt that I've got on that you'll see in the grab here.
And that's a convenience factor, do you think? Because, you know, analog drums.
The urban sprawl now is upwards.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody's got the high density living now. As I said, Roland have released a drum kit, electronic drum kit that's silent, so you can play it in a flat, and it's got insulated foot pedals.
Oh, gee, that's good, because everybody used to hear, I could have the electronic kit, but it's the foot pedal that resonates through the floor down to the bottom.
Yeah, well, they've got insulated foot pedals now and softer beaters and silent pads, so you can't even hear it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very good. It's called the silent kit, obviously.
Yeah.
But in saying that, you're still creating a sound that's already been made for you. I mean, I've had to do the same thing here with just the volume that I teach and play and practice and rehearse at, you know, over the past few years. And plus, since COVID, I think, since people have been working from home, it's been a bit...
Oh, they'd hate your neighbours, wouldn't they?
Well, there's a bit more niggle. I mean, they don't, but some do. And so what I've had to do is go out and buy the Evans DB1 drum heads, which are the mesh drum heads, and I've put triggers on them, and I've got the Yamaha EAD10, which is an electronic device that has a sensor that sits on your bass drum, and it's got a microphone built into it, and then you plug your triggers in, and you've got your silent skins. And I can record. I've got an electronic drum kit on my acoustic kit now.
You know,
but in saying that, I've also, looking back over the years and years and years of me recording in that room and the sounds that I've got all those sounds that I can sample. I can use my own sounds if I record via MIDI.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I can trigger my own sounds. I mean, it's a process, but that's what I'm exploring at the moment. And it's good fun to do, but it's still not the same as smacking the hell out of a acoustic
No,
drum.
well, I was very lucky, Rob. I built my last place. I built a basement, fully
That's the perfect.
a fully sound enclosed basement, which I could go down to at midnight and hit it, hit away on a analog kit, and nobody would hear me. You should be so lucky.
I mean, I designed one of them back when we were living at Henley Beach. I had the plans drawn up. The architect drew the plans up, and it was a 70K build at that time. And I had a big enough backyard to do that, but unfortunately, the things didn't turn out. But that's the best way to get a soundproof place is to have a basement.
Oh, it's terrific. But, I've moved to more urban living, central CBD living.
Laneway living.
Yeah. We're here amongst it.
You are.
So, look, I mean, one of the other last things I wanted to bring up before we go to our personal stuff, music and whatever, is the Australian Honours List. Now, I have a chuckle about this. I laugh about it every year because there's thousands get the Honours List, thousands. I would have thought the Honours List might be maximum 50 or 100 people who have done very good community-based, type of activities that stand them out from the rest, and they should be honoured, right? But no, of course we get thousands, and you just nominate, especially politicians. They all nominate themselves, and so even with politicians, they're paid to do a job. Well,
they're public servants, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, and so a corporation. So I don't think as head of a corporation, so say you're head of CBA Bank, and you could be the head of the CBA Bank. Well, that's one thing. You're paid to do that. But if you, on a personal level, are the head of Save the Cats or something, I don't know, and or Save the Animals.
Is Geelong doing that bad?
Geelong, yeah.
Geelong doing that bad?
I don't know.
Save the cats.
Yeah, Save the Cats. So if you're doing that personally, well then, there is real merit and there's real results in what you're doing, or whatever. But but anyway, I think there was nearly 1,000 this year. Order of Australia's. That's a huge amount, isn't it? Everybody gets one, don't they?
Well, it seems like it. I don't really pay attention to any of those things. It's not on my radar, so it doesn't make any difference to me. But congratulations to all of the winners. You did a great job.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, they're heads of all the companies there that got them. Oh, okay, all right. So maybe they did some really good stuff. But I would have thought it should be down to the individual themselves, not as right. But maybe I'm all wrong with it, So anyway,
I get your point.
Yeah, that was the big thing that came out. Now, release-wise, a lot of releases going on. God, we were releasing right through Christmas.
I know.
And right into early Jan, so we're back into it big time. So there's a lot of product coming out. I think one of the big ones happening at the moment would be Johnny Bachelor. Johnny Bachelor has been getting enormous streams, and he's really resonating around the world. And Johnny's from the band The Drop Bears back in the 80s. And so he's getting great results. But Uppercut are another band, more hard rock band, who are getting some great results and, have followed the plan and are doing really well. We've got Southbound Snake Charmers, who have got a new song coming out, I think it's tomorrow. And they've been doing really well. I mean, they just do so well with their stuff, right across the board, right across their whole catalogue, and they've got a lot of releases. And who else have we got? Remora, which Remora started with a couple of tribute albums, a Led Zeppelin and a Glenn Hughes. Now, that's pretty adventurous, doing a tribute to Led Zeppelin, but they've been getting picked up on a lot of international playlists, and so they're doing quite well. And because they hold up their end of the bargain quite well, playing them, representing that music. They're getting a lot of accolades around the world. So we're pushing that a bit more. They're doing all original stuff now. But, back then, that it was such a good recording that it's doing quite well. So, we've got releases there. It just goes on. Sideshow Annie have just delivered their new track. They've had a few issues, health issues and whatever over the last couple of or 6 months. So they're back with their new song, which is fantastic. And it's just such a professional band. We know that your band, Virgin Soldiers, we had Another Day, but we've got a couple of new songs ready there.
Another Way.
Yeah. But what was the next song? No.
No Second Chance.
That's right. That's the one we
That's it.
decided on. So that's happening. The Joltheads had their song came out. The list does go on. Alpine Jubilee have released. I can never remember everything. There's just so much. So plenty going on. Laneway Red has just steadily been doing what it's got to do. And our prime goal at the moment, and for the rest of 225, is to embed into the heads of listeners that you can trust the name when you see the logo and the name Laneway Red, and that it's a trusted site for you, because that's really important, because why would you move away from anything else? You need to trust it, and then we will get more and more people listening on it. So it's steadily growing, but we're just focused on that trust factor. That's what we see as the big issue, trying to break into the system, is that you need to trust them and say, yeah, they're legit. It's not bots, it's not AI, and it's not a dodgy site that if you put your details in, you'll be sold off to the Colombians. So that's happening. So that's really good. I mean, but there's just release.
Not that there's anything wrong with Colombians.
No, well, I know quite a few Colombians actually, but you can't go past it. That we know that's where the cartels all exist. The drug,
the C word.
Yeah, the drug capital of the world. So
Let's go.
Well, I mean, I only just saw there the Americans were trying to send some people back to Colombia. Colombia said, we're not taking them.
We don't want them here.
Yeah, we don't want them here. Anyway, so what's been going on with you, mate? And how's Rob's Drum Shed been going?
Yeah, pretty good. My most popular post over the holidays has been 44,000 or something.
Oh, really? Oh, that's fantastic.
And that Soldiers video is going really, really well. Another one, that was 88,000 streams plus the 20,000 on the R-rated version. So that's over 100-something thousand streams, which is... and I've been working a lot more hours in the shop over the holidays because one of our guys has been overseas in America playing in Memphis at the Blues Challenge, and went and recorded in Nashville. And it's interesting, Jack Thompson is the man I'm talking about, the drummer that I work with. He was saying that Memphis wasn't what he expected. He said it's a pretty sad town.
But when you say that, what do you mean, in the music sense or in the economic sense or in the...
Economically, yeah.
Really?
He was quite shocked at how bad things were.
Oh, wow.
And how quiet things were at night, and walking around the streets wasn't really safe. And,
oh, God.
He said it was a bit of a shock. So, I know a lot of people are struggling, and as you say, every week that we're in a economically financial crisis, everyone are doing it tough. And, the reality is when you see it in other countries that we imagine, big, wealthy countries are doing it tough too, but you don't see a lot of that stuff.
I think, look, no doubt about it. The cost of living crisis is real, and people are really struggling to buy food. And there isn't a politician in town that is really helping.
And that's what they're there to do. That's the thing that, don't blame the general public that it's their fault and get them to put their hand in their already empty pockets. Like how about the politicians put their hand in their over bulging pockets to do something about it?
Cost of living crisis is, and we know electricity prices is killing people. They can forget about their little rebate. What happens when that rebate finishes? That's going to kill people. So, but, going down to Coles and buying your food, you can just say, what does $100 buy you anymore? A couple of packets of chips, really.
That'd be really good chips, though, I reckon.
Well, now realistically, you look at your bag for $100, you go, God, there's not much in there. Now, you get a family of three, 3 kids and a husband and wife. Well, you'd have to be talking $500 a week food, wouldn't you? You would.
I think so.
$500. Who does everybody get $500 a week, $2,000 a month, and then got a mortgage and a car,
That's
and
right.
transport,
Everyone's flogging themselves to death working to try and pay for those bills.
It's tough going, mate.
It is just the rat in the wheel, isn't it?
It's
following the cheese.
Just tough, and look, as I say, music can soothe the soul, and that's what I love. I love my music, and it always comes back to music for me. I have a privileged life of music. Oh, TV, I suppose, in the TV industry and film industry, but just a charmed life, really, just pure luck, right place, right time, and it's been fantastic. And music soothes the soul. There ain't any doubt about it. So, good to hear. And Rob's Drum Shed is powering on still?
It's not too bad. I think I'm up to about 318 subscribers in the past couple of...
When you think about that, we started that little process back in about August last year, maybe September, and that's not that long ago. And I think you had 57 subscribers.
67 it was.
67.
Yep.
Made that a great note. So let's call it 320 now, right?
Yep.
That's really good. I mean, you just got to get to that 500. Got to get to that 500.
Yeah, that's the plan. I keep posting, keep doing shorts, keep recording different bits and pieces there. Yeah.
And just persistence and consistency get you there. And once you get there, it's another level again.
Yeah, and I'm back to teaching this week as well. So, that's really exciting.
I can say, that persistency and consistency, if you think our YouTube channel hit over 50,000.
It did, yeah.
And we're stoked with that. And we got a big congratulations from Google. Isn't that exciting? I'm not sure what that means. But then we have hit...
Show me the money.
Yeah. We hit 35,000 on Facebook, and within a couple of weeks we hit 36,000, and we're just about to hit 37. So we've got this real big increase coming on Facebook.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and so that's happening. I can't, we're not doing anything different, Rob, but it's just continuing on.
Well, as we say, stick to the plan.
Yeah.
You stick to the plan, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the other thing I'm saying, I've got it in front of me, it's like what I am doing on the music retail industry side of things is just exploring the creation of a sustainable business model for the modern music retail environment. I mean, I'm sort of trying to put my academic cap on there and get some more research underway this year because I think we all need to look at what's going on and try and make it sustainable for future generations as well. Because I think what we do is great, but at the end of the day, what do we make music with? And that would be, besides our voice, instruments. Everybody needs them. Everybody has them. Everybody wants them. And we need to keep that industry alive and well.
Do you know something with that too, sustainability and all that kind of stuff?
Yep.
The recycling of musical instruments must be extremely efficient. Think about that. Guitars never get thrown away. Not really. Drums never really get thrown away. Very small percentage because they keep getting recycled.
So I have thrown some away.
Yeah, I have once or twice. But
I'll take some down the dump.
Yeah, a couple. I've done the same. But it's very rare. A lot of them just keep getting resold and resold. And so it's a very efficient industry in that respect, don't you think?
I think so, yeah. They go to lots of different places too, which is quite interesting where they turn up, you know. It's funny. I had a customer in a couple of weeks ago. Her hubby passed. He lived over at Sejuna, over on the sort of, Great Australian Bight, sort of that end of town in South Australia. He just lived over there on his own in Penang, actually. Had his drum kit, played his drums, went out, had a family of kangaroos that he looked after, went for walkabouts in the country and came back and played his drums, and that's all he did. He just existed out in the middle of the country playing his drums and looking after kangaroos.
Wow.
I mean, what a way to go.
Wow.
Not a care in the world.
Well, I used to love, as a kid, going to the pawn shops, and not so much because I never really had drums, but looking at the guitars they had in the pawn shops.
Yeah, which are the cash converters of today, I suppose.
Well, I suppose it is the cash converters of today, but back then, they were individual pawn shops.
They were, yeah.
They're just
PAWN people.
Oh, you could sometimes find some fantastic guitars to think, oh, why haven't I got any money? You could buy that, and there's, it'd be Gibsons and whatever, but really old ones, just fantastic. Anyway, that's the recycling. Anyway, I suppose that's enough for this week, and we shall talk soon, and we'll see how we're going, because you've been working quite a bit lately, so we haven't been able to record any shows, correct?
That's right, yeah. I've been doing the 6 days a week thing. So it's and the Thursday mornings I've been working. But I think we're back to a normal routine for the next few weeks anyway. So
okay, well, we'll see you next week.
Laneway Talk.
See
a
you
little
later.
about something and a lot about nothing. All right.
See you, buddy. Bye.
See ya. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.